This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Safety and security online are critically important. You can protect yourself online with Surfshark. Get 83% off and 3 months for free through the link in the description below. Ever one of those months where you look back at your finances and wonder, what exactly went on this month? What did I buy? Just me? Whether or not we like to admit it, it can be all too easy to dish out money on necessities, life's pleasures, just those small purchases that add up. Well, no matter how bad of a month finance-wise you've had in the past, those numbers are about to be dwarfed by millions. Because, enter the chat, Hollywood. The silver screen has sparkled, dazzling millions of people worldwide with the love, intrigue, excitement, and emotion of 50-foot-tall stories. But the money behind these films sparkles even more. They say that the camera adds £10. Well, it also adds about that many millions of dollars. Although it's tricky to get the exact cost of movies, studios can be tight-lipped when it comes to finances, we did our best to scour the web for information. Today, we're taking a look at the most expensive movies ever made and why they turned out to be quite so pricey. The fourth installment in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise brought fans another swashbuckling adventure following Captain Jack Sparrow and his search for the Fountain of Youth. It also brought Disney a windfall of over $1 billion. But that didn't come without some pretty hefty spending first. The final costs for this film rang in at about $410 million before a generous tax credit of $31.4 million. The high price tag came as somewhat of a surprise to everyone, including Disney. The movie had a tighter time frame to shoot, the absence of big-name cast members like Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, supposedly cheaper visual effects compared to the previous films due to less climactic sea battles, and production taking place in the UK and Hawaii to take advantage of big tax credits that those locations were offering. So, why the steep price tag? One of the biggest reasons was cast and personnel cost. Most notably, Johnny Depp seized a massive payday of $55 million for reprising his role in the film. Next to him, Penelope Cruz and Ian McShane drove up the price tag as well with their salaries. In total, the film hired 895 workers, paying them $17.8 million in total. Another cause for the hefty cost was shooting on location. Even though Disney tried to plan a smaller budget production site, shooting on sea is always expensive and unavoidable for a pirate movie subtitled On Stranger Tides. The crew also used 3D cameras to shoot the movie. When compared to converting the film to 3D in post-production, this process proves more complex and costly. When all was said and done, the $410 million budget was a wonderful investment on Disney's part. With over $1 billion in gross income and $500,000 in profit, they more than made their money back. And even if it's not the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie you've ever heard of, well, you've still heard of it. The appearance of this film on this list will probably come as no surprise to anyone. If you were alive in 2018 and 2019, it was virtually impossible to not see some form of advertising for this film. Anyone who has watched Endgame will know that the movie has no shortage of stars in it. The cast is a veritable who's who of Hollywood stardom. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, just to name a few. Paying a cast like this is no small feat. Each of the previously mentioned actors took in $15 million for the film, except for Robert Downey Jr., who earned $75 million. Seems like that hefty sum was more than enough to give Iron Man the mettle to reprise his role one last time. The last reason for Endgame's high price tag is the production costs. A film partially set in space involving superheroes with all sorts of powers and featuring some epic battle scenes is bound to require, well, a stupid amount of special effects, and those effects do not come cheap. The writers, producers, directors, and other staff salaries were also included in the production cost, of course, making everything mad expensive. Avengers Endgame, like On Stranger Tides, earned back their spending, though when all was said and done, the total budget of the film was $350 million. The worldwide gross was around $3 billion. Looks like in Hollywood, you have to spend money to make money. Now, while we're on the subject of movies, let's talk about something that's going to take your streaming abilities to the next level, and that, of course, is today's sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Do you use the internet? I know you do, you're using it right now. Do you have personal information that you'd rather remain personal? You bet. Who doesn't? Well, let me tell you something, the internet is all kinds of weird. There are people out there who want to ruin your day. They want to take your details, steal your identity, and that's a thing, and it's a pain in the arse. Surfshark has Hacklock. This searches databases for your passwords, which sounds bad, but don't worry. Surfshark are the good guys. If they find your information out there, they'll be like, yo, change your password. You do that, warm comfort of safety. And while you're in that warm comfort of safety, maybe you're like, let's watch some Netflix. Maybe you'd like to watch that insane Pirates of the Caribbean movie that I already mentioned. No. But what's that? It's only available in the UK and you live in Phoenix? Well, sun's in 4, my dude. There's no problem at all. Just flip on that VPN and now all of a sudden you're in the UK and you're watching Johnny Depp pretend to be a pirate. Woo! I don't actually know if these are available. Wherever that is, but you do get a lot more options. And look, did you really want to watch on Stranger Tides anyway? Did you? Then maybe you're all like, oh, the Caribbean. I love that place so much, I want to go there. Let's get on a plane and visit, but what's that? I looked up the prices of flights twice, and the second time I looked it up, it's so much more expensive. Why, airlines? What are you doing? Well, just flip on that VPN, and they don't know that you looked it up twice, because they know if you looked it up twice, you're more likely to buy it, so they raise the price. Just avoid it with Surfshark VPN, hey-ho! And it's also totally unlimited, so you can download as much stuff as you want. No worries, and of course, no logs. And also, 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, just go get your money back. You guys can get 83% off and 3 months for free through the link in the description below, or just use the code SIDEPROJECTS. And now let's talk about some really expensive Marvel movies. The first installment of the epic finale to the 18-year MCU build-up is unsurprisingly on this list as well, following the movie that followed it in theaters. The lack of surprise comes both in the fact that Marvel does nothing small when it comes to the Avengers, and from the fact that many scenes from Endgame and Infinity War were shot at the same time. This means that many of the reasons that made Endgame so expensive apply equally to Infinity War. First off, production costs. Since scenes from both movies were shot at the same time, the filming schedule turned out to be quite a bear. Director Joe Russo revealed that the cast and crew filmed for a year straight from January to January, with only a 2-week break. During that time, the production costs racked up $350,000, $400,000, and even $450,000 per day. To put that in perspective, that's like spending the equivalent of 6 times the annual median salary in the United States every single day. Add to that the hefty production costs. Infinity War, just like Endgame, boasted an A-list cast. Beside the core group of Avengers mentioned before, the film also featured Paul Rudd, Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch, Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, Josh Brolin, among others. Paying a cast that famous is gonna add up. Oh, and then of course there's Robert Downey Jr., who gets paid an absolute shit ton of money. Finally, just like Endgame, Infinity War showcased some breathtaking special effects. Who knew making superheroes come alive could be quite so expensive? Everybody. When production was finally wrapped up, the best estimates put the movie's cost at upwards of $316 million, but like the previous 2 movies, Marvel made more than their money back, grossing $2 billion worldwide. And if those figures weren't staggering enough, consider this. Marvel spent $150 and $200 million on marketing for Infinity War and Endgame, respectively. Another Pirates of the Caribbean movie? What is this list? All repeats? Well, maybe, but that's because the priciest films match certain trends, patterns that you might have noticed by now. All these movies have been star-studded, larger-than-life stories that require money to pay for the celebrities and locations that make these movies possible. A World's End is no different. Johnny Depp, by this point synonymous with his character, Captain Jack Sparrow, was paid another handsome sum to reprise his role. Alongside him, Orlando Bloom, Keira Knightley, and Jeffrey Rush also raked in the cash. Filming locations drove the costs up as well. This movie was filmed in 14 different places. Many scenes in the movie had to be filmed at sea, which made the production costs steeper. All in all, the cost of At World's End rang in at over $300 million, making it one of the first movies to ever break the $300 million barrier. The movie grossed $961 million, earning the studio its money back and then some. But it also came up short of the $1 billion mark that its predecessor, Dead Man's Chest, pulled in. And there's another trend. These movies always make Disney their money back. Finally, a movie that breaks some trends. No Marvel, No Disney. It's DC and Warner Brothers all the way for this one. Unfortunately, one of the other trends it broke was the high grossing figures of the previous 4 films. Although the $657.9 million income was enough to cover the $300 million production cost, the number pales in comparison to some of the previous movies. Sticking with its atypical nature, Justice League went through 3 different phases in its release to the public. Production started off normal enough until Snyder had to drop out of the project for personal reasons. Snyder was initially given around $270 million to make the film, already putting it among pricey but not the priciest films ever. But that was just phase 1. After Snyder's departure, Joss Whedon took the helm as director and quickly insisted on doing things more his way, which involved many reshoots. The scenario of a director changeover is not uncommon, but the price tag attached to this transition was. Typically, reshoots cap out at $10 million. However, Whedon requested about $25 million for his reshoots, putting the costs at around $300 million, enough to land it on this list. But the story does not stop there. This is when Phase 3 starts. There was such a buzz about Snyder's version of the film that fans went online and created a tidal wave of posts, discussion boards, and internet-related requests, all under the Release the Snyder Cut hashtag, so Warner Brothers finally relented and streamed it on HBO Max. But this was not before having to go back and finish off the rumored to be 90% done Snyder version. Estimates put these costs anywhere between $40 and $70 million. That would be enough to propel Justice League to the top of our list, right next to On Stranger Tides, but for the sake of uniformity, we just stuck with the pre-theater costs and eschewed any streaming-related spending. And one last trend to follow or break: will Justice League's earnings finally justify its hefty price tag? Well, we can only hope the film's second life on HBO Max will help it do so. So I really hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please do smash that like button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out today's fantastic sponsor, Surfshark. And thank you for watching.